Next, we want to look at our per unit variable cost. To calculate average variable cost, we take total variable cost and divide it by the number of units produced. Therefore, when we produce 8 units, we simply take our total variable cost of $100 and we divide it by 8. When we produce 20 units, to find our average variable cost, we take our total variable cost of $200 and we divide it by the 20 units produced. To find the average variable cost, when 45 units are produced, we take our $300 of total variable cost and divide it by those 45 units. We can continue doing this for all of the scenarios. Take the total variable cost and divide it by the number of units produced. We can see here that our average variable cost is initially declining and then it begins to increase. So let's plot this information. We'll plot it on the same graph as our average fixed cost. When 8 units were produced, the average variable cost was $12.50. When 20 units were produced, the average variable cost was $10. When 45 units were produced, the average variable cost was $6.67. When 75 units were produced, the average cost was $5.33. When 100 units were produced, the average variable cost was $5. When 120 units were produced, the average variable cost was $5. And when 130 units were produced, the average variable cost was $5.38. And when 135 units were produced, the average variable cost was 5.9. We can connect these points to see what's going on with average variable cost. We see that average variable cost is initially declining, reaches a minimum, and then begins to increase. Average variable cost first falls because as our workers become more productive, the cost of those workers is spread across more units. The per unit variable cost decreases. When our workers become less productive, then the average variable cost starts to increase. Therefore, there's a relationship between average productivity and average variable cost. When average productivity is rising, average variable cost is falling. And when average productivity is falling, average variable cost is rising. Our workers are the most productive, meaning average product is at its maximum, when average variable cost is at its minimum. And we can see all this on the table as well as on the graph. Notice that average product here is increasing, average variable cost at the same time is decreasing. Average product is at its maximum at 5 workers. That's where average variable cost is at its minimum. As average product begins to fall, average variable cost begins to rise.